I will put these earbuds in and I will test to make sure that the live stream is working. Hi everybody. I hope you're having a good day. We'll start in about, let me check here, 35 seconds. I almost said 35 minutes. That would be incorrect. In about 30 seconds, we'll start this live English lesson about describing a typical day. A typical day is the things you do Monday through Friday. And I'll give you a better sense in a moment once we get started. Everything seems to be working properly. We'll start in about 10 seconds. Let me double check a few things and then I will start the lesson. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about describing a typical day. This is a common thing that you will talk about if you have an English conversation with someone. They might say, oh, what time do you usually get up? What time do you usually go to bed? What time do you usually eat lunch? So in this English lesson, I will give you example sentences for my day, my typical day, and you can use them to make typical sentences for your typical day. You'll notice I used the word usually a lot. That will come up a lot in this lesson. It's a good way to start these sentences. Usually, I watch Bob's live stream. I watch Bob's live stream on Friday mornings. Usually, I go to bed at 10 p.m. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about how to describe a typical day. Hey, before we get started, I just want to double check to make sure everything's working. Looks like it is. I want to say hi to everyone in the chat. Hi to Freddie Wolf, Lolly Lolly, Peter, Fritz is here as well. Roseanne, Cat Diary, Hafiaz, Paco-san, Muslim, Freddie Wolf, Lurie, Haki, Christian, Antonio, Zohir, Larry, and many more. Just to clear my throat a little bit there. Sorry about that. It looks like everything is working properly. Thank you for being here an hour later than normal. I think it's an hour later. In Canada, you'll notice by the comment I left at the top of the chat, in Canada, it is now, we changed our clocks last weekend. So we're now out of daylight savings time and into, I forget which one is which, but it is now an hour difference for some of you. For some of you, it's the same because your country might switch clocks as well. But thank you for being here at a slightly different time. Make sure you use the chat for good, fun English conversations. If you do have a question, there is a link below. And you can also in the chat, if you're a member, make the link pop up for other people by typing ! and then a link. Hi to Etienne, John Wedge, Wanda Prado, Samuel Elcont, Denise, Esep, Samuel, Motivational Voices, etc. Very cool to see all of you here. Should we get the lesson started? I think we should. There are a lot of slides for this lesson, so let's get started. I wake up at 6:30 a.m. So this is the format of this lesson. I'm going to give you a number of slides with a complete sentence. You can start all of these sentences with the words usually. That's a good way to indicate that you're talking about something that happens regularly. So, and mostly I'm talking about Monday to Friday. When you talk about your typical day, it's usually your typical work day or your typical school day. So I wake up at 6:30 a.m. I don't get out of bed right away, but this is when I wake up. Remember, wake up is the point where you go from sleeping to being awake. And I'll talk about the next portion of the morning in a moment. Again, if I use the word usually, I would say usually I wake up at 6:30 a.m. So you can take this sentence and put in the time that you get up and you'll be ready to start describing your typical day. I usually hit the snooze button once. Sometimes I hit the snooze button twice. The snooze button is, of course, the small button on your phone or alarm clock that tells it to stop ringing and to ring again in 5 or 7 or 10 minutes, whatever you have it set to. I usually hit the snooze button once, and then 7 minutes later, my alarm clock goes off again to remind me that I should get up. And that's the next sentence. So wake up is when you go from sleeping to being awake. Get up means to actually physically get out of bed. So I get up at 6:40 a.m. I get up at 20 to 7 in the morning. I usually get up at 6:40. That's the point where I go from laying down to sitting up and then standing. I get out of bed at 6:40 is another way to say it. So I get up at 6:40. I get out of bed at 6:40. Notice the pictures are not me. So even though I'm describing my typical day, instead of taking photographs of myself, I did find images to highlight it. So again, you can take this sentence, and if someone said, oh, what time do you usually get up? You could say, oh, I get up at 7. I get up at 7 o'clock. I get up at 7 a.m. Notice there's a number of different ways to say that. Or you could say, I get out of bed at 7. I use the bathroom. I'm not going to go into detail about what happens here, but generally the first thing I do when I wake up is I usually use the bathroom. You could say I go to the bathroom. If you want to be more descriptive, you could say I take a pee, or one of the other things you do in the bathroom. But this is not a lesson about describing in detail what happens in the bathroom. But generally, after I get up, I usually use the bathroom. And then I wash my hands and I head downstairs. So again, I go to the bathroom or I use the bathroom. Then I make breakfast. For me, usually when I make breakfast, I make eggs and toast. That has been my breakfast for a while. Sometimes I make oatmeal instead of toast. But usually in the morning, you will see me making breakfast right after I get up. That is one of the first things that I do. You could say I cook breakfast, but it's more common in English to say I make breakfast. So I make breakfast every morning. Sometimes Jen makes breakfast for me. That's really, really nice. But usually I get up and then I make breakfast. I wake up quite hungry. I eat breakfast around 7 a.m. I eat breakfast around 7. Both ways will work. You could say I eat breakfast around 7 o'clock, but we don't often say the o'clock part. Well, we do, but it's not, I think we're always in a hurry. What time do you usually eat breakfast? I usually eat breakfast at 7. So this is a pretty typical weekend breakfast probably. My breakfast during the week is a little bit smaller than this. She looks like she's having waffles and strawberries and a cup of tea and bananas, and it looks pretty nice actually. But for me, it's usually just a fried egg and something and some toast to go with it. Some of you might not do that. Some of you might skip breakfast. You might say to someone, oh, usually I skip breakfast, or I usually just have a cup of coffee, or I have a cup of tea. Sometimes in the morning I'm in a hurry, and so I skip breakfast. That means I don't make breakfast and I don't eat breakfast. And instead I just go straight to work. Sometimes I'm a little rushed in the morning, but some people do, if they don't eat breakfast, they might still have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. That sounds really good, actually, a cup of coffee. I don't drink coffee, but that sounds really good this morning. Then I have a shower. So in order to get ready for work, I have a shower. You can say I take a shower. There are 2 ways to say it, but basically I think you guys know what a shower is. I don't take a bath. I find a shower is much quicker. Sometimes in the summer, after a long day's work on the farm, I will take a bath or have a bath because it's just nice to sit in warm water. But for me, I usually have a shower or I usually take a shower. I use shampoo on my hair. I use soap on my body, and I make sure I'm nice and clean so that I can go to work. So I have a shower after breakfast. And then I get dressed for work. If you are in school, you would say I get dressed for school. In English, when you say you get dressed, it means you put on underwear and socks. And I also put on deodorant in the morning. So I put deodorant on so that I smell nice during the day. And then I put on a shirt and I button up my shirt. I put on my pants. I put on my belt and I do up my belt. I put some, did I put socks on already in this little story? I put socks on and then I'm ready to go to work. I don't usually wear a tie, but I definitely wear a shirt like this. Like this would be a typical work shirt for me. Then I make my lunch. Some people make their lunch right after they make breakfast. Some people make lunch after they have a shower and get ready to leave for work or school. That's what I do. Usually I have a shower, I get dressed, and then I make my lunch. I don't buy a lunch at work. I don't go out for lunch every day. Usually I make my lunch in the morning, and it's usually similar to this. It might be a sandwich, a banana, it might be a granola bar or a protein bar, but this is one of the last things I do in the morning. I make my lunch. Then I put on my shoes. I could say I put on my shoes and then I tie my shoes, but that's too much detail. But on my way to the car, I have to put shoes on. So I put on my shoes, I lace up my shoes, and then I grab my lunch, wallet, phone, and keys. I also make sure I have my Fitbit on and my ring. And then I leave for work around 8 a.m. You could also say I head out the door at 8 a.m., but I feel like I'm going a little fast here. Let's back up. I grab my lunch, wallet, phone, and keys. So in order to go to work, I need my wallet. I have to have my driver's license with me. I need my keys to start my vehicle. I need my lunch so I can eat. And I need my phone because everyone needs their phone, right? It's an important thing to have with you each and every day. So this is what I do on my way out the door. That's the English phrase we would use. On my way out the door, I grab my lunch, my wallet, my phone, and my keys. And I usually make sure I have my wedding ring on and my Fitbit as well. And then again, I leave for work around 8 a.m. When you use the word around, it means it's not a precise time. So I leave for work around 8 a.m. or I head out the door at 8 a.m. So again, you can take these sentences, all of them, and just change the times. And if you're making notes with this lesson, you'll have a nice description of your typical day. And then remember, every word starts with usually. So usually I leave for work around 8 a.m. Usually I head out the door at 8 a.m. It's a nice time to drive to work. But hey, let's look at some questions here. I see some people in the chat chatting away. I like that. That's very cool. Etienne is chatting away. Freddie's chatting away. Mode Eggs is here. I answered Mode's question in my short lesson today, if you have a look. Mode says, that's fine, Mr. Bob, if you don't use your photos. You already have 2 videos of you actually going through your typical day. Yes. Oh, I do. Usually I hit the mic once or twice. Yes, I do. Those were fun to make. I should remake them at some point because I think there's a few phrases I didn't necessarily add. Hockey says, although I get up very early, about 6:30 a.m., I make my breakfast about 10. I usually drink warm water with lemon after I wake up. Very cool. Yeah, there are days where I don't eat until lunch. And I actually have a lot of energy on days like that. I have to study that a little bit more. Okay, from the forums. By the way, if you are new here and you're wondering what's happening, the lesson's not over. I'm pausing to answer questions from viewers, and then we will get back to the lesson in about 8 minutes or so. How far did we get? Oh yeah, we're totally on track. Ruslan, hello, Teacher Bob. If a typical day includes 5 alarms, 10 cups of coffee, and 1 missing sock, it described as organized chaos or just classic survival mode? I think for some people, that might be their typical day. When I get really, really busy, sometimes I will have a day like that. I don't do the 10 cups of coffee, but sometimes I hit my snooze button too many times. And usually I have my clothes ready the night before so that because in the morning it's hard to think, but there are times where it's organized chaos. Yes. Where I'm looking for another sock or the shirt that I wanted to wear. Let's see here from Denis. Hello, Super Bob. Do you have any duties, daily grind that wear you down? What task is a tough row to hoe for you? So hoeing is what you do to get rid of weeds. And we have a phrase, a tough hoe to row. In Canada, we also say tough sledding. It's a very Canadian term, but it means the thing that's hard to do. For me, it's grading student work. Like I like teaching, I like showing students how to do stuff, but sometimes I have like a large pile of tests or quizzes that I have to read and grade. And that I don't enjoy doing that. I don't think any teacher really does. Like, you enjoy the first 10, but if there's 30, it gets a little bit, it's a little bit much. Let's see here. No, that says, hello, Bob. I have a moment to stop by and leave a personal question. Do you still have the same daily routine as you once showed us in your videos? Thanks, sir. Pretty much, yeah. And I think when I mentioned that I might want to redo those, I think it has changed slightly, because I think when I made those, I was working full time, and I think I could do a better one now. But I also think it'd be fun to do how to talk about your weekend routine, what you do on Saturdays and Sundays. So I might do a video on that someday. Let's see here. Amir says, hello, Bob, my dear teacher. I am from Iran. Could you tell us some slang or idioms instead of waking up and go to bed? And what's the meaning of let's hit the hay? So hit the hay means to go to bed. Probably the most common way that I say it is, like, if you're really tired, you might say, oh, last night I crawled into bed at 11 p.m. So when you say crawled into bed, it means like you're so tired you could hardly walk. And I don't know if we have anything for wake up or get up. We might say like, oh, I slept in and I rolled out of bed at 11 a.m. That would be another way to describe getting out of bed. From Possible, I don't know, do you have a video about horoscopes? But I'm curious to know, what do you think about that? I don't want to believe that, but sometimes it's coming true. My feeling on horoscopes are, they're like entertainment. I don't think the predictions, I think they're written in a way where you can believe it's coming true because it's so general. Like, if I said right now to all of you, I think you are all going to have an amazing day today, and someone is going to be extra nice to you. So for some of you, that will come true, and then you'll think, Bob predicted this. Bob is amazing. So I don't know. I haven't done a lesson on horoscopes, but I will think about it. From Zara Van, today I woke up at 10 a.m. It's a bit late. Need to put the word bit in there. It's a bit late, but usually I wake up at 7:30 a.m. Yes, that is 10 a.m. is pretty late, actually. I have trouble sleeping in that long. It's hard for me to sleep that long. Let's see here. Arena says, hi, Teacher Bob. If you want to open the curtains, what do you call it? Little switch there. And if possible, could you explain, please, what do you call the blinds on the window another way? So curtains open like this. They're like made out of fabric. Blinds usually open like this, or you pull them up and down, and they're made out of plastic or wood. So that's the difference between those two. The way I would say it is, I need to open the curtains. Can you close the curtains? Can you open the curtains? When I show a movie in class, the students want to close the curtains. They always want it dark. And then when we're done, we open the curtains. So that's how I would say that. From Peter, hi, Mr. Bob. Your live stream is unique today. I'll learn wonderful vocabulary. You have a nice day and weekend. You too. I hope you have a nice day and weekend as well. Let's see. Just reading the chat a little bit and then we'll get back to the lesson. Haki says, I try, but honestly, I don't enjoy drinking coffee first thing in the morning. I prefer tea to coffee. Yeah, having a conversation there with Mode. And Mode saying, yeah, some people do. Quite a few people. Let me slow down. Mode says to Haki, yeah, I actually know quite a few people who don't like to eat first thing in the morning, and it's the case with me sometimes. But the morning coffee is a must-have for me. Yes, a must-have is something you really need to have. And then at the bottom, Mode says, so true, totally agree with you, Mr. Bob, about the horoscopes. The descriptions are usually so general that they slightly fit everyone. Yes, that's the trick. That's how they make it work. Let's keep going. It takes me 15 minutes to get to work. I have a 15-minute commute. So when I leave for work, there's a certain amount of time it takes me to get to work. This is how I would describe it. I would say it takes me 15 minutes to get to work. A common question might be, hey, how long does it take you to get to work? Oh, it takes me 15 minutes to get to work. You could also then say, I have a 15-minute commute. This is the word we use to describe how long it takes you to get to work after you leave your house or apartment. So for me, this actually is slightly off. It takes me 11 minutes to get to work. I have an 11-minute commute. It's really nice. Every day my phone says, no traffic, 11 minutes drive. Your drive home will be 11 minutes long. I get to work at 8:15. So again, with time, I could say I get to work at 8:15. I get to work at 8:15. I get to work at 8:15 a.m. I get to work at 8:15. I said that one already, didn't I? There are a number of ways to say it. I could just say, oh, I get to work a little bit after 8, although it is usually closer to 8:15 or 8:20. So I could say I arrive at work at 8:15, but that sounds kind of formal. Most people would say I get to work at 8:15. Usually I get to work at 8:15. I prepare for my day. Now, here is where the lesson will change slightly. I'm going to describe my day. Your day might be very different. After you get to work, you might usually have a meeting. You might go and do what I do and prepare for your day. You might start working on something immediately. Maybe you're at a factory and you start putting things in boxes on an assembly line. For me, though, after I arrive at work, I usually prepare for my day. I check over my notes. I make sure I remember what I was planning to do. I usually go to my teacher desk and I prepare for my day mentally and by actually doing things. I might photocopy something as well. You might meet with your boss. I don't meet with my boss every day, but I quite often will meet with my boss 1 or 2 days a week. I might have a quick question. Because I'm part-time, there might have been an announcement for employees after I left, and then my boss might come and say, hey, can I just meet with you for a sec? There's a new way to do something. So, but this might be pretty standard for you. You might meet with your manager. You might meet with your boss. You might meet with your shift supervisor, and they might tell you what you need to do that day. I chat with my colleagues. As a teacher, sitting and talking with other teachers is considered work. I know where you work, it might be considered being lazy, but teachers are often encouraged to talk to each other when they're not teaching. So we don't sit around drinking coffee all day, but sometimes it's nice just to sit and chat with my colleagues. When teachers talk, I don't think Brent's here now. When teachers talk, they often talk about school and teaching and what works and what doesn't work. So it's always very effective to have that. So usually for about 10 minutes in my morning, after I prepare for the day, I usually sit and chat with my colleagues for a bit before we go. And then I teach my first class. For you, you might say, I work my first shift. Well, not shift. You might say I work, I'm trying to think if you're at a factory, because you work from maybe from 7 till 10, right? So you work the first, you get to work there. Let's put it that way. For me, usually I teach my first class. I take a break at 10:20. We kind of have a unique schedule at school where there's a small 5-minute break at 10:20. So I take a break at 10:20. I might use the bathroom. I might get a cup of water. Some teachers will grab a cup of coffee during the little 5-minute break, but it's classes are about 72 minutes long, and then there's a small break, and then the next class will start. I teach my second class, and that class, some of you might be curious. My first class is business. My second class right now is computer programming. So that is my typical morning. I have lunch around 11:45 a.m. I know this might sound early to you, but because of how the school day goes, that's when I have my lunch. You might say, I have my lunch at 12:30. I have my lunch at 11. You can also just say eat. So usually I eat my lunch at 11:45. Both sentences would be perfect. So again, you can take these sentences and modify them however you need to. You could say to someone, oh, usually I have my lunch at 1 o'clock. Usually I skip lunch, or usually I go out for lunch at 11:45. Like I said, I don't go out for lunch. I bring a lunch to school, but maybe you go out for lunch. I eat in the staff room with my coworkers. You could change this sentence in a number of different ways. You could say, I eat by myself at the park, or I meet a friend at the park for lunch every day. You could say, I eat in the break room. I was trying to think of the word. A staff room is that's the name of a place where teachers go in a school. At your work, it might be called the break room. So again, this sentence you might have to change a little bit differently. So again, here's some examples. I eat by myself at the park. I meet a friend for lunch every day at the park. I eat in the break room with my coworkers. Those are a number of different examples to describe that. And then I plan for the next day until about 2-ish. So I wanted to add this here. We have some imprecise ways of talking about time, and I should have mentioned this in my lesson this week. Ish means around. So I only need to stay at work till about 1:30, 1:45. I work part-time, so I'm allowed to go home, but I usually work till about 2-ish. I plan for the next day until about 2-ish. So that means maybe 5 to 2, maybe 5 after 2, maybe 10 to 2. So ish just means it's an imprecise description. Usually what I do is I plan for the next day. I grade some student work. I do what a teacher would normally do when they aren't teaching at my teacher workstation. By the way, I have a desk in the classroom where I teach, but I also have a desk in a quiet area in a teacher workroom. So I usually work there. I finish work at 2. I don't throw all my papers in the air to celebrate, but I think maybe I should start doing this. But at 2 o'clock, my work day is done. And again, that might sound early to some of you, but this is only my work day at my job, my day job. By day, I'm a teacher, and then by night or by afternoon, I'm a YouTuber. So I finish my formal work day at 2 o'clock. You might change this and say, I usually finish work at 5. I usually finish work at 6. I usually finish work at 4 o'clock. So obviously we all have different times. I head home around 2:05. So the time when you are done work isn't the same as when you leave. Like I finish work at 2, but then I get my bag and my jacket and I walk to my car and I head home around 2:05. It's quite common for someone to say, hey, can I meet you after work? And you might say, yeah, why don't I meet you around 2:05? I'm going to be heading home. Instead of going straight home, I'll meet you at the coffee shop. So the phrase to head home kind of mirrors the phrase, where is that one? I'm looking at my thing. I head out the door at 8 a.m. I head home around 2:05. So I'm not sure if you were familiar with that phrase. I'm trying to see here where I am on we're doing great, by the way. Okay, so then when I get home, I work on YouTube until 5:30. I reply to comments, I write lessons, I go shoot video, I edit video, whatever needs to be done that day happens in that time slot. So from about 2:15, 2:30 until about 5:30, I'm working on YouTube. Sometimes I work on it a little bit more after supper, but generally I arrive home, I work on YouTube until 5:30 p.m. You might say something like this, like I head to my second job at 2 o'clock, and then I get to my second job at 2:30, and then I work there until 6 o'clock. Some of you might have 2 jobs. Some of you, when you're done work, you might head to your mom's house, or you might head out to visit someone. So different things can happen. This is definitely the part of the lesson where it's a little more specific to me than it is to you. And then I make supper at 5:30 p.m. So again, I work for most of the afternoon, and then sometime around 5, I usually start to get hungry. So I make supper at 5:30 p.m. and then Jen and I take turns making supper. So we don't often say, like, you can use the verb cook, like I cook supper at 5:30, but make is a more general way of describing it. You just say that way, whether you're making sandwiches or cooking something or just eating some food out of the fridge that you like, maybe you make a salad, make is a better verb. So I make supper at 5:30 p.m. Although at this time of year, it's Jen makes supper more often than I do. So Jen and I take turns making supper. In the summer, when Jen is really busy on the flower farm, I usually make supper. This time of year, when Jen is less busy, she usually makes supper. So we take turns during the week, but we also take turns at different parts of the year. Hey, let's do some members only chat. Let me get that turned on. I see members chatting away right now already, which is good to see. I really, really enjoy it when I see people chatting, because I think it just makes the lesson better. That way I know if I'm being a little bit boring, at least they have something to talk about. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Let me get a question on the screen. I'm clicking all the wrong spots. From Pedro, and then I will look for questions in the chat as I do this. Pedro says, "Hello, Bob. Have you ever forgotten something at home when you went to work? I once forgot my keys for the company I work for and had to go back to get them. Thanks." Yes, I have forgotten my laptop a number of times. I have forgotten. Sometimes I go to work, and when I'm done work, I go make an English lesson in town. And then there's been days where I forgot my camera. So I go to work, I work till 2, and then I don't have my camera. So yes, I have never forgotten my keys because I need them to drive. My school keys and my car keys are on the same keychain. Okay, let's see here. I see people chatting about remote work. I think that's, yes. Now, Andra says, before the pandemic, it took me about 1 hour and 15 minutes to get to work. For years now, I work from home, so it's exactly a 0-minute commute. I really enjoyed that part of remote. We call it remote learning. I know you call it remote work. You would just get up and you didn't have to drive to work. It was really, really nice. There were a lot of parts that I did not enjoy. There were parts that were quite, yes, not very nice. Just looking something up for a sec here. Okay. In the chat, Mode says, "Hey, Mr. Bob, is it Remembrance Day today in Canada? Is that why you have the day off?" So no, Remembrance Day is on the 11th. Remembrance Day is a holiday. Well, it's more of a day of where you honor people who have fought in different wars. Okay. So no, it is on the 11th. Today I have the day off because this week we had parent-teacher interviews. So Tuesday night and Thursday night and Friday morning are when the parent-teacher interviews happen. But because I'm part-time, I only need to go to the Tuesday night and Thursday night one, and I don't have to go to work today. So that's really, really nice. It's nice to have a bit of a break. So really, really nice. Hey, questions are not coming in. Let me make sure that things are actually working, because I don't have any questions in the forum either. We're plumb out of questions right now. Sorry that I keep clearing my throat. I don't enjoy doing that on a live stream. But hey, if you're one of the 388 people watching, there is a subscribe button here possibly, or one below. Please subscribe. You will get notified when I put out a new English lesson. Mode says, "You're doing great, by the way, breezing through the slides." I decided to switch up a bit and do lessons where I'm teaching the actual sentences I use in different situations. So I think about once a month, instead of a like vocabulary lesson, straight vocabulary, I will probably do something more like this, where people can literally write down the sentences and change the time or a few details, and they have a sentence they can use in a conversation. Lolly says, as a nurse, I work the night shift. Is this sentence correct? Thanks, Bob. Yes. So you can say you work the night shift. If you work from like 10 p.m. until 6 a.m., we might call that the graveyard shift, but certainly night shift. We also say afternoon shift. So if you work from 3 in the afternoon until 11 at night, you might call that an afternoon shift. And then people often say, oh, I'm on days this week, or I'm on nights this week, or I'm on afternoons this week. So for someone who does shift work, they might have a week where they work during the day, and they would say, oh, I'm on days this week. They might have a week where they're working in the afternoon, maybe from 1 until 8 at night or something. They would say, oh, I'm on afternoons this week. And then if you're working like from 9 p.m. till 5 a.m. or something, you would say, oh, I'm on nights this week. So that is one way to describe it. That's a great question, Lolly. I'm glad I could explain that. Because as an English learner, if someone said, oh, I'm on afternoons this week, you're like, what are you talking about? They're saying their work shift is in the afternoon. Freddie says, Bob, does it happen sometimes that you spend any breaks in coffee with some of your students in order to listen to their ideas or problems in a uniform way? So we sometimes have lunch with students. On Thursdays, the teachers actually get free lunch, and then we eat with the students in the cafeteria. So yes, sometimes you do have an interesting conversation. John says, hi, Bob and everyone. No question today. Babies due either February 26th or March 6th. Time's flying and there's still so much to do. LOL. By the way, Bob, how do you keep all your hair? I know we were just talking about that this week. Somehow at my age, in my early 50s, I still have all of it. So we'll see. Maybe I'll grow it really long this winter and see what it looks like. I haven't done that for a long time. My mom's dad, my grandfather on my mom's side, had a full head of hair until basically till the day he died. So I think maybe I inherited that. And then Hafiz, I'd once forgotten my wallet and my ID for work was in the wallet, and there was going to be a meeting. I remember that was so stressful. I just started working at the time. Early on, when you start a job, it is stressful when you forget things. Yes. Lolly says, thanks for your answer. Hafiz makes a small correction there. John says, hey, folks, don't forget to give a thumbs up. Thank you. Wanda says, hi, Teacher Bob. Don't you need a break before starting your second work? Thanks a lot. No, not really. Sometimes I come home, though, and I will go and talk to Jen. Jen will be working in the field, or I might help her with something quickly before I start on YouTube. Freddie says, each day when I head out of my house, I usually check if I don't forget my head. Yeah, don't forget your sunglasses or your own head for sure. Afia says, grow the hair long and shave clean the beard. That's my goal when I eventually retire. Someday when I stop doing YouTube, I'm going to grow my hair long and shave my beard and mustache, and then no one will recognize me. I will be a complete stranger. Etienne, I'd love to see you with long hair, Bob. I don't know. My brother has longer hair. It looks good on him. I don't know if it would look good on me. Etienne or Andras says to Hafiz, the worst happened to me was the one time I did not take my company cell phone with me. Usually I wouldn't care, but we used two-factor authentication to log into the laptop, so I had to go back home. Yes. Mode says, this is like a day in the life of Bob the Canadian, but in the form of a live stream. Bob jumping on the bandwagon with style, teacher style, if you will. He even broke out one of his fancy shirts for this. Yeah, I did get some new shirts. I'm not a fashion icon, but I did buy, I think they're Tommy Hilfiger. I'm not trying to style it up, people. I'm not trying to look like I have expensive shirts. These are on sale. I think they were only $12 each or something. So I bought 5 different colors, I think. It was time for me to get some new shirts. I had to retire a few of the old ones. Okay. Let me check the form for a sec. No questions there. Afia says, I imagine that was stressful, especially if you have a micromanager boss, which I had. Haha. Yeah. So I've had micromanager bosses. A micromanager is someone who watches you work and tells you everything you're doing wrong all the time. like constantly, it's not enjoyable at all. John Wedge says, "Oh, Bob, I meant, how did you manage to keep your hair when Jen got pregnant? Why does it drive us crazy with so many things to do? Ha ha ha." You know, I think Jen was very calm, and that helped me stay calm, but I was definitely more stressed than Jen whenever we were expecting a baby, for sure. Hafia says $12 each for a Tommy Hilfiger. That's a steal. Yeah, they were on. I keep looking at the wrong sleeve. That is the logo, right? I'm not a fashion guru. I don't know. Pretty sure that's what that says. They're a little bit. They don't fit great though. They fit nice up here, but they're kind of big at the bottom. I should learn to sew maybe. Andres says, "I do have a great boss actually, and his boss is awesome too." Yeah, you have to quickly cover yourself there, Andres, in case they're watching the live stream. Hey, let me turn off members only chat and we will get back to the lesson. Give me a sec to do that. And we'll be done in probably about 10 minutes and I will finish answering as many questions as remain. So Hobart, I see you have a question there. I'll get to that in about 10 minutes. Here we go. We eat supper around 6 p.m. We eat supper around 6 o'clock. It does take a while to make supper, so you can't necessarily eat at the same time you make supper. So we usually eat supper around 6 p.m. Sometimes we eat supper at 5:30. We do sit down as a family and eat together as often as we can. Sometimes we're too busy. And if we're really busy, sometimes everyone might just grab supper on their own. Notice I use the verb to grab. So on a really busy day, I might come home from work till 5. Jen's still in the field. I might just grab supper quickly. I might just heat something up and eat quickly. And then when the kids come home, they will do the same. But we usually eat supper around 6 p.m. Again, using the word usually. Then there are a few things that I might do. These aren't things that I do every day, but I might go for a walk. I might watch YouTube. I might read a book. I might watch some TV. Yes, those are the things that I'm most likely to do. Sometimes I now shoot my bow and arrow. I did that yesterday. That was nice. I have to buy some more lights though, because the area where I do that in the barn isn't very bright and it gets dark out here earlier. But you might have other things. You might go to the park. You might walk your dog. You might visit friends or family. There are a number of things that people do after supper. You could say, I have a nap. So you might sleep for a little bit. You could say, I usually watch the news, or I usually read the newspaper. All of the things that we do in life that we do to relax and enjoy the day. I should say many of those things happen after supper for me. So sometimes Jen and I will, we don't usually do errands late at night, but we sometimes will do something like that. But for me, I might go for a walk. I might watch YouTube. I might read a book. I might watch some TV. Those are the things that are most likely to happen. And then eventually I get ready for bed. So I usually get ready for bed at 9:30 p.m. I usually get ready for bed at 9:30. And by get ready for bed, it would be all the normal things you would do. I use the bathroom. I brush my teeth. What else do I do when I'm getting ready for bed? That's really about it. I'm old, so I take my pills. I'm on a couple of different medications for my heart. So, and I usually have a glass of water before I go to bed. I probably should stop doing that. Maybe that's why I get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. I should think about that one. But anyways, I get ready for bed at 9:30. And then I go to bed at 10 p.m. or I crawl into bed at 10 p.m. Again, crawl into bed, we usually use when we're really tired. Like, oh, I was so tired last night. I didn't crawl into bed until 11 p.m. And again, crawling is when you're using your hands and your feet to kind of crawl along the floor. But yes, normally I go to bed at 10 p.m. I crawl into bed at 10 p.m. And then I set my alarm for 6:30. I couldn't find a picture of 6:30, but I set my alarm for 6:30 a.m. and then I fall asleep around 10:15. It's actually sooner than that. For some reason, I can fall asleep in a split second. So usually I go to bed at 10 p.m. I set my alarm. I close my eyes and I'm asleep within a minute or two. I very quickly fall asleep at night. And then of course, that's the end of my day. That's it. Except for what I mentioned earlier. I do get up in the middle of the night once to go to the washroom pretty much every night. By the way, if you're not as old as me, it will happen to you as well. Eventually, when you're in your 40s and 50s, suddenly you have to start to get up to go to the bathroom at night. But anyways, this lesson's going downhill now, isn't it? So I think this is the last slide. So the last thing I do is I fall asleep at 10:15. Hey, that's the lesson. I think this was a pretty popular lesson. We had almost 400 people at one point. So that's pretty cool. Hey, do remember, this lesson will come out in a shorter version in a couple days. I'll take out all of the viewer questions and make it into a pure lesson. But right now, I'm just going to finish off the questions that are in the chat. This is from Hobart. Hello, Bob. I usually get up at 7 and then take a 10-minute walk to the office and then begin the 8 hours. This situation has lasted 15 years, I'm assuming. It's boring. How to change? Well, at a certain point, you have to decide, are you just going to do it till you're 60 or 65, or are you going to look for another job? So I'll leave that up to you, Hobart. But I think you just have to find a way to enjoy it, I think. But you know what's not boring about a job? Getting paid. I always like that part of any job. Omar says, can you give us some interesting sentences for welcoming people home from work, etc.? We just say welcome home. So when I get home, Jen might say, hey, welcome home. How was work? That's a pretty common thing for her to say, or to simply say, hey, how was work? For our kids, we say, hey, welcome home. How was school? I don't know why I'm putting my hand up. How was school? But yes, that would be the common question. How was work? How was school? How was your trip? How was your day off? That's a very common way to do it. Last question from Hien. No question today. I love some videos teaching English. Oh, I love seeing videos of you teaching English. I like seeing the autumn season in your country and really appreciate it because I live in tropical weather. Yeah, the last few videos from outside have certainly been, it has been quite beautiful with the leaves and the changing colors. Now it's starting to look more like just trees with no leaves out there. So anyways, I think we're done. Mode says to learn English with Bob the Canadian. One last question. Is it common at your place of work to go for a coffee run? Sometimes, usually on a Friday, there are some teachers who will do a coffee run. During the week, not so much. Friday's kind of a fun day. When I was younger, there was a group of teachers and we would take turns going for a coffee run every Friday. So there were 4 of us. So every 4 weeks, I would do the coffee run. By the way, a coffee run is when someone from work goes to a coffee shop to get coffee for people and for themselves. So yes, very common on a Friday. Etienne says, no water after 8 p.m. I sleep way better, I would imagine. Okay. And then Hafiz, are water cooler talks common there? Not so much. More at a school, you would see teachers sitting around a table in the staff room. I know there are some places of work where the boss doesn't want people to sit down, but teachers, for some reason, were allowed to sit down if we're not teaching, just to talk. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. We're done this one. Remember, a shorter version will come out in a couple of days. Make sure you do watch it to reinforce what you've learned. It's just a good idea. Repetition isn't great, but if you were to describe your week, you might say, usually I watch Bob the Canadian's English lesson on Friday live, and then I usually rewatch it on Sunday or Monday to help remember everything that I had learned. And you don't have to watch the whole thing. There might be portions where you didn't quite understand what I said. The shorter version has subtitles you can turn on, so you can use that to get a better sense of what is happening. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'm going to now enjoy my day, and I will see you Tuesday with a new lesson. So bye, everybody. Bye to Lolly, Andy, Ismail, Denis, Hafiez, Svetlana, John Wedge, Mode Eggs, William Lopez, YC Husu. I'm going to wait. John Wedge, Wanda Prado. Bye to everyone. Have a good day. Bye to Pedro, Andras. Just waiting as people say bye. I will say bye to them. Bye to Hafiaz, Haki, Lolly, Etienne, Freddie Wolf, and everyone else who is here. Bye, John, and have a good day, everybody. This was fun. Again, I will try to do lessons like this more often, where sometimes it's good just to learn the exact sentences you need, and then you can memorize some of them, and then it can help you start to build better English conversations. So bye, Svetlana, Ulia, Tempu Stories, Payman, Judith is here. Hi, Judith. Nice to see you. Jumping in. Marcio, Hobart, Cat Diary. If I skip your name, it's because I don't know how to read your name, but thank you anyways. Guyu, David, Tomoya, and everyone else who is here. Bye, everybody. I'm going to have a sip of water, and I'm going to enjoy my day. Bye.